as promised, in this video we're gonna have a spoiler-free guide to House of the Dragon, the same as what we did last year for Game of Thrones. Like my previous video, I'll try to keep it short and simple. So without killing time, let's get started with a little bit of important history. If you haven't watched Game of Thrones, you're totally fine, but there are a few things you need to know. House of the Dragon is a fantasy TV show, which takes place in a world with two continents, Essos and Westeros. For now, let's forget about Essos. The recorded history of Westeros extends back over 12,000 years, but we want to start our story 4 generations before the incidents of House of the Dragon, where we have different kingdoms and each kingdom has a house and king to rule them, until Aegon Targaryen in Dragonstone decides to unite all the 7 kingdoms into one. Aegon and his 2 sisters, who are also his wives, have 3 dragons. Aegon's dragon, Balerion, also known as the Black Dread, is the biggest of the Targaryen dragons, but he died years before the incidents of House of the Dragon, and you can see his skull in House of the Dragon trailer and many times in Game of Thrones Red Keep's dungeon. With the help of their dragons, Aegon and his 2 sisters take all the 7 kingdoms, all except for Dorne.
It wasn't just Aegon riding his dragon. It was Rhaenys and Visenya too.
Correct.
Rhaenys rode Meraxes. Visenya rode Vhagar.
You don't really need to know how Aegon took those kingdoms, but let me tell you that briefly, because knowing the names of those kingdoms can help you in the future. Aegon and his sisters started their conquest from Dragonstone, and their method was easy. Accept us as the king of Westeros and we will name you and accept you as the lord of your lands, or deny us and we will burn you. Visenya went for Galtown and Vale. Aegon himself went for Harrenhal, and Rhaenys headed to Storm's End. Then all the 3 of them flew to Stony Sept to fight against Harrenhal and the Reach United Forces, who were already in God's Eye. And after defeating them, all the 3 of them again flew to the Trident to stop North forces. But this time, no war occurred, and King of Winterfell, Torrhen Stark, knelt and rose as no king, but Lord of Winterfell. Then Visenya flew to Vale again, Rhaenys to Dorne, and Aegon to Old Town, and took it peacefully. Because of this achievement, Aegon is called the Conqueror, and the year he united all the kingdoms was set as the beginning of this world's timeline by the Maesters of Citadel in Old Town. So for example, 10 AC means 10 years after the conquest, and 20 BC means 20 years before the conquest. After the conquest, the 7 kingdoms lived peacefully. In 37 AC, Aegon the First Targaryen died, and his son Aenys from his younger sister Rhaenys became the king. In 42 AC, Aenys died, and Aegon's other son from his other sister, Maegor the First Targaryen, became the king. And in 48 AC, when Maegor died, Jaehaerys the First Targaryen became the king at the age of 14 and ruled for 55 years. In his time, people lived a peaceful life, and King's Landing grew in size. Jaehaerys had 15 children, but none of his children outlived their father, and we only need to know 2 of them, Aemon and Balon. After Jaehaerys' death in 103 AC, his granddaughter Rhaenys from his eldest son Aemon should have been the queen of the 7 kingdoms. But back then, the lords of Westeros didn't want to take orders from a woman.
Sorry, but following a lady's lead just isn't my style.
So his grandson from his second son, Viserys the First Targaryen, became the king, and Rhaenys became the queen who never was. And here's the starting point of House of the Dragon. So the only Targaryen characters you need to know are Viserys, his brother Daemon, Rhaenys, the queen who never was, and Viserys' daughter Rhaenyra. Beside Targaryens, there are 2 other houses you need to know in order to understand everything in the first season, and those houses are Valyrian of Driftmark and Hightowers of Old Town. From House Hightower, Otto Hightower is Hand of the King, and from House Valyrian, Corlys Valyrian is the Master of Ships and married to Rhaenys, the queen who never was. There are other side characters I can introduce, but I think it's enough. You'll know them throughout the show, so don't worry. But before we finish this video, I have some extra information from a reliable source who attended to the premiere and watched the first episode of the show, but don't worry, there is no spoiler in it. For those of you who have watched Game of Thrones, in the first episode of House of the Dragon, there's gonna be some direct references to the events of Game of Thrones. And as you know, Ramin Djawadi, the composer of Game of Thrones, is back. and there are some pieces in the first episode that have a familiar theme from the main show. Unlike Game of Thrones, which in the first episode the show blasts you with tons of names and information, House of the Dragon has a simple start, so you're not gonna get confused watching it if you haven't read the books. There are of course gonna be some Easter eggs you might miss, but don't worry, after the release of each episode we're gonna cover them all in this channel. Another thing I received from my source was about the feel of the show, which gives you the vibe of Game of Thrones first seasons, and although it might be familiar, it's a fresh and new experience. And unlike Game of Thrones that was good against bad, this show's kinda bad against bad. So in the upcoming seasons there are gonna be some situations where you can't choose sides, and it's gonna be like a football match where you want one side to win and your friend next to you wants the other side to win, and it sounds really exciting. And at the end, if you think dragons in Game of Thrones were so natural and well made, this show's gonna change your mind, because there are 17 dragons in this show, and as you saw in the trailer, they look so amazing. That's it for this video, folks. All you needed to know, and the rest you shall see in the first season. Have a good day, and may the Lord of Light protect you all.